first introduce Stephen, and then when Stephen finish, Helena gonna jump in and introduce Tim, and
Very well.
then we back to you when Tim finish.
Okay, very well.
And the two will have a question to each other. Yeah.
Okay, so we will be ready to go here. Who will let me know when we start?
So we will play this welcome page until minute before, and then we're going to switch it on to sharing global view because that video doesn't really have a sound. So it's actually just a plain picture for sharing global view. So we all get ready, 1 minute countdown, and then we will, when the picture's finished, which is 7:30 Beijing time on the notes, and then you can start, sir.
So when the video finishes, I can start.
Correct. So when the other pictures coming on, Yolanda will start to share or stream it on YouTube. So
I'm sorry, when does that happen after the video?
Well, after the sharing global, well, when the sharing global video picture come up, we will go live on YouTube. So everyone will be silent.
Okay, and then when the video finishes, I can start talking.
Yeah, when the picture finishes and it will actually just finish, and then you can start, sir.
Okay, let's hope I get this right.
Yeah, now it's 1 minute countdown. We going live on YouTube now.
Hello there again. My name is Jose Maria Figueres, and it is my privilege and pleasure to invite you all to join us in this new edition of Sharing Global Views, in which TU and Elena Liu are, together with myself, your hosts. As you may know, GLASE, the Global Alliance for the Sharing Economy, is a wonderful way of looking at the global economy going towards the future. It foments the creation of business models, new opportunities for investment, opportunities for entrepreneurs to delve into the space of the global economy, build better and more robust businesses by sharing across borders in a way that maximizes the resources of the planet and the return on investment for companies and entrepreneurs. In this opportunity, we have two extraordinary presenters of how AI, artificial intelligence, can really change for good the importance of business and of how business can share resources across many different verticals of industry and other types of businesses, and of course, across borders as well. So with that, let me turn it over to TU, who is going to introduce our first speaker. First, before we hear from T, good morning to all of you in the Americas. Good afternoon to all of you in Europe. Good evening to all of you in Asia, especially in China. And thank you again for joining us in this conversation and new edition of Sharing Global Views. Back to you, T.
Thank you so much, President. So welcome having everyone today. So before I really start to introduce Stephen, please do remember that on our poster, but also you access our LinkedIn account. So please do have your questions or all your feedback posted over there. So there will be interaction section at the end of it. So we can have some Q&A. We're going to pick up some questions to ask our key speakers. So we're having two speakers, as President mentioned. So first speaker is Stephen Lernout. He's from Belgium. He's a very successful entrepreneur with background in technology, sales, and marketing, with extensive knowledge on natural language processing. He's very, very passionate at artificial intelligence, a strong believer in its potential in short and long term. So a few years back, he helped to found this company, Nalantis, and the special in computer linguistic and semantics. So he developed this and implement this business model with focus on building highly technological and innovative AI product and library for industries such as human resources, talent acquisition, upskilling, legal research, and local government and city administration. So today, Stephen will share with us some of the most frontier view on how we could use AI match business opportunities and overcome language, location, and even trust barrier to some extent. Eventually, it will lead to a business without borders. So let's welcome Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you, Tay, for the kind introduction, for the kind words. Thank you to GLASE for having the opportunity to present a little about the work we've been doing in artificial intelligence and applying AI to language. Thank you, President Figueres, for hosting this and moderating this. And I'm looking forward to hear about the second speaker as well, Tim Luan. So looking forward to that as well. I have about 15 minutes prepared for you. It's a short and crisp message, if you will. I'm going to talk a little bit about our research and all of the stuff that we've been doing into AI. I've sort of split it up into presenting ourselves, helping and doing so with a small introduction video, a couple of minutes. And then I'm not going to bombard you with many slides, but just a few slides to help you explain what it is that we're doing, what makes us different, sort of help you understand the industries and the solutions that we're building. And then finally, to top it off, obviously, diving a little bit into the GLASE use case and how we can help GLASE in growing those robust businesses, those robust partnerships that the president was talking about. So let's maybe kick it off with a small video. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. All right. Here we go.
Stad Gent is een innovatieve stad. Ook in ons bestuursakkoord staat eigenlijk dat men volop wil inzetten op digitalisering.
We hebben met traditionele zoekrobotten geëxperimenteerd. En we zien dat die op een bepaald niveau kunnen volgen, maar op een zeker niveau ook echt afhaken.
Het is een speld in een hooiberg bij momenten om gerichte informatie te zoeken. De chatbot kan ons daarbij helpen.
Op termijn verwachten we eigenlijk dat gerichte vragen aan de specialisten zullen verminderen en mensen binnen diensten zelf sneller hun antwoorden zullen kunnen vinden.
Voor ons is het gebruik van artificiële intelligentie het instrument om de besluitvorming dichter bij de mensen te krijgen. Ook bij het gebruik van een chatbot, er worden veel beslissingen genomen, maar hoe kunnen we nu eigenlijk buiten treden als bestuur, als bestuursploeg, als college, als burgemeester, als gemeenteraad. Dus eigenlijk besluitvorming dichter bij de mensen brengen op een begrijpelijke en heel transparante, duidelijke manier.
Okay, great. That was a short introduction. Let me take you to just a few slides, so I can elaborate a little bit more on Nalantis and about our story. I'd say at the core of these webinars, it's about sharing global ideas. It's about building businesses, robust businesses. It's about building partnerships. And I heard Tay mention very important because it certainly applies to, I think, one of our strengths. It's building it cross-border. And so by definition, that means cross-language, right? And so that entitles a few challenges that need to be overcome. And we think we might have a few solutions in helping companies overcome these cross-language, multilingual or multilingual barriers. What I like to do is sort of, instead of taking you into AI for language too soon, let's maybe take a step back and think about what it is that drives, what powers artificial intelligence. And obviously, it's about big data. I think everybody in this webinar has already heard of the term data is the new oil, and that is certainly true. This is the opportunity, but we think, and maybe it's a bit strongly opinionated, but we do think that at the data well, there seems to be a problem. We tend to call it, it's a little bit poisoned. Why? Because to be able to power really, quality artificial intelligence, quality algorithms, quality machine learning, you need to feed the models and the algorithms quite a bit of data, really big containers of trained data. And trained data by itself means that you need to structure your big data so you're able to teach a machine what it needs to learn, right? And so the idea that we still, or that artificial intelligence is progressing quite fast, it still needs to be fed in order to train the models. It still needs to be fed a vast amount of data that needs to be structured. And so looking at the progress in artificial intelligence, we obviously see it all around us. It's about speech recognition, image recognition, it's in robotics, it's in Internet of Things, it's in autonomous vehicles, simply because the training data, the structured or the labeled data to be able to build that progress into artificial intelligence is there. What we're trying to do, actually over the last couple of years within Nalantis, is we're trying to sort of close the bridge or close the gap between natural language processing and natural language understanding. So what is it that we need to do? What is the type of research that we need to build to be able to do or to follow up on the same progression, but within language? So true, data is the new oil. It's an opportunity and a challenge at the same time, because machine learning models really need large and vast amounts of training data, and in many cases it is not there. So that's the challenge, that's the problem that we're looking to solve within Nalantis. One of the quotes that we really like is the one from John Gianandrea. He's a senior profile at Google and Apple, and obviously I think lots of big technology companies are looking at trying to understand language from a sort of a computational, not a machine point of view. And we strongly believe that this is the case. Building machines that are capable of semantically understanding language, that's one heck of a problem to solve, but it's a compelling one, and one that we are certainly, with the team at Nalantis, very passionate about. I took the liberty in adding a Chinese translation as well for Asian and Chinese Chinese audience today. So I'm just quickly scroll through the slides in Chinese as well. One of the, maybe I'm not going to throw too many quotes at you, but a second one, which certainly is the case, it's by Zhuangzi, a Chinese philosopher, that says really to be able to understand words, to be able to understand language, it simply exists because meaning exists, right? And once you're able to grasp the meaning of a sentence, of an article, of a piece of language, then somehow you don't need the words anymore. And that's a strong and powerful statement, because it's actually the one that we build our entire philosophy and methodology around. It's about building machines that can interpret language to the extent that we don't need to rely too much on mathematics, but that we can rely on semantics and linguistics to do it. And to be honest, I think that since I'd say the founding of Nalantis, which is about 10 years ago now, we've built the team around computational linguistic competencies out of Belgium, where we have a lot of linguistic and semantic talent right here. So we have a competitive advantage to do it out of Belgium, out of the Netherlands, and so forth. And so certainly after 10 years of research and many solutions and products already in the market, and APIs and building blocks already being used by lots of customers, I think it's maybe fair to say that we somehow cracked the code in helping machines understand language. What I think is interesting to show you is maybe just to take you back, not a few years in our case, but actually take you back a long way, because artificial intelligence is not, it's not something new. It has been, let me see, a small video. It actually has been around quite a bit, starting as of the 1950s. Obviously, Alan Turing did a lot of research in natural language processing, specifically on the sort of linguistic scale, if you will. And then in the next 10 to 20 years, you saw that in terms of semantics and machine learning, so the three building blocks on the left, lots of stuff has been happening. To me, and I think to anybody in AI, whether it's in research or consulting, it's certainly true to understand that the real tipping point is actually the birth of the internet. ARPANET was, let's call it maybe the front runner for what would have become the World Wide Web, actually the internet in the 1990s. The big data parts, which I explained at the beginning of the slide deck, is actually the origin of big data is actually the birth of the internet. So that's how we're able to, as humans, get access to so many data. And then looking at a few tipping points after the birth of the internet, for sure, I would say, let me maybe pause it right there. A few other important points. Actually, in 2008, we started the company, so it's 10, 12 years ago. In the meantime, at MIT, a lot of researchers were developing so-called concept nets, basically semantic models to be able to represent human language. And then at the machine learning axis, if you will, the first origin of machine learning and deep learning, 2009, it all got together. Now, we strongly believe at Nalantis that it shouldn't simply be focusing on one axis, whether it's machine learning or semantics or linguistic. To us, it has always been about finding a way in combining these three building blocks. So combining linguistic, semantics, and machine learning into one sort of natural language understanding technology, which basically in 2017 we were able to, we were able to manage. So throughout the years, we've been investing in natural language processing. Then a little bit further on, we were looking at building semantic pattern recognition. And thanks to the, let's call it the birth of deep learning and machine learning, at Nalantis, as basically one of the very few companies, we were able to combine all of these elements into one single technology stack. A technology stack, an AI engine that is capable of looking at unstructured data, human language, if you will, and convert it from language to meaning, as it was in the the famous saying by the Chinese philosopher, words exist only because of meaning, right? So this is, I'd say, one of our breakthroughs. It took us about 5 to 6 years to invest quite a bit of resources into building the engine, stabilizing it, obviously, and then looking for opportunities in the market, looking at the type of industries that typically need lots of people to go to lots of data, to do analysis, searches, or to find matches, and so forth. And during the last couple of years, we've managed to find those industries, to find those companies in those industries. We're also working for governments. And the fact that our technology is sort of by definition domain and language independent, it means that we can sort of fine tune the engine and serve a particular amount of companies in several industries across several languages. So that gives us sort of like a unique selling point. We do so in many different markets. You already saw a specific use case in the introduction video. Just to run you through one of, or let's say the industries where we are most active in, HR, so anything that is related to human resources, talent acquisition, talent management. Early on, it was about helping companies that have to deal with lots of job openings and lots of resumes, for example. And in many cases, those stacks of information, those stacks of data were in multiple languages. So if you have an algorithm that can convert a resume or a job opening from language to meaning, it doesn't matter in which language the original data set is in. So if you convert those data stacks to meaning, then you can sort of match meaning onto meaning, and then you could match profiles with job openings and vice versa across domain, across language. And so we've been one of the early models was actually doing this. Gradually, it sort of moved towards where we think the future of work will be. We are experiencing lots of automation. Basically, we are one of the companies that tend to work on building on leveraging on top of automation. We see lots of digitalization. We're being faced with the impact of COVID and Corona across the globe, obviously, and then ultimately you'll see a lot of jobs. If I'm not mistaken, lots of studies calculate close to 200 million jobs being displaced in the next 5 years. So how would you deal with that from a government point of view, right? How would you deal with people that somehow lost a job because it got displaced due to automation, or it got closed due to COVID or something like that? So what we've been doing is we've been working on a solution which is called AI for upskilling. And it basically enables our algorithms to build semantic profiles from people, then build skills passports, so what people can really do. And then we're able to map that against the future of work. We're not saying that the jobs will disappear. We're saying that some jobs will disappear, and then some jobs will reemerge, but have a different description. Right now, with Nalantis technology, we can calculate the skills of the future, and we can map them against the skills that people have today. And we help universities and vendors of offline and online courses to upskill these people and prepare them for the future of work. So that's interesting. That's basically a spin-off of the AI for HR solutions that we've been building over the last couple of years. Legal, same thing. It's about having the ability to contextually and semantically understand legislation, jurisprudence, so we can help courts, we can help legal publishers in better understanding the data that they publish and making sure that it's intuitively searchable across domain, across language. So that's interesting. If there's a little bit of time in the Q&A, I can tell you about a legal project that we've been engaging with together with the European Commission. I'm not sure if there'll be enough time, we'll see. And then obviously, you don't mind, President Figueres, that obviously we think that smart cities, given the fact that you have lots of expertise in public office, could be something quite special. So the ability to really contextually understand local government legislation, city legislation, and have having the ability to give intuitive access to the citizen and vice versa. So using AI to disclose, local government and local city legislation and build chatbots or visual search or anything like that. That's an interesting market that we definitely want to be in. And we're rolling out solutions as we speak here in Europe. Now, to close off the topics here in the slides, what is it exactly that Nalantis can do for GLASE? And we've been very fortunate to connect with the people, the kind people at GLASE a couple of months ago, and we started thinking, how can AI for language help in the case of GLASE, right? And so we started pondering on a few challenges that GLASE will need to overcome in the next couple of years, or at least in the short term. And so looking at the vast or the huge network that GLASE has, the business and investor network, hundreds and thousands of people and companies that look for in China and then look for business opportunities, startup stories, interesting cases across the globe. There already, the situation today is that you need quite a bit of manual labor, which is obviously okay, to be able to match or connect these startup profiles or business opportunities or companies looking for business opportunities in China and vice versa. Typically the way that these networks and opportunities are profiled, it's in unstructured data, it's multilingual. So given the big volume of opportunities, you need quite a bit of people to match them manually, and you need to be able to overcome the language barrier, of course, because suppose, for example, there is a startup in Germany that has its profile in German written up, the profile of the company, and how would an investor in China, for example, or a business chamber in China, connect, not knowing in the content of the profile and the language in which the profile is constructed in. And so the idea of enabling AI for language to understand these profiles from a supply and demand chain and convert them to meaning, and this is you would allow me, Tay, to give a small insight to our audience here. This is the work that we've been doing over the last couple of months. So in the left-hand corner, you have the global grade sharing cloud at GLASE side. And obviously there, there's supply and demand. And so given the necessity of building a supply and demand chain, well, obviously in COVID and Corona times, we did a few experiments. We built a small prototype in which GLASE would say, here's a batch of multilingual data with supplies that could help in COVID times on the demand side in China, and then vice versa. So you'll see here on the left end, from a supply side, we were given a small description on protective materials, health and safety materials, stuff like that. It's multilingual. Parts of the text or unstructured data were in Chinese, parts were in English, even other parts were in other languages. And so on the bottom corner and on the left-hand side, you'll see that the output of the analysis engine at Nalantis is what could make it really powerful. So instead of trying to use statistical models and maybe shallow linguistic technology, and using fine granular semantic technology, you're able to really capture the meaning, the semantic context of a specific piece of data, whether it's in Chinese on the left-hand side, or whether it's in English on the demand side on the right-hand side. And so being able to convert language, in this case supply and demand data to meaning, and then matching meaning on meaning, will give you a very, very powerful automatic AI matchmaking engine. So this would enable startups from anywhere around the globe that have interesting business opportunities, that have an interesting story to tell, startups, chambers of commerces, whatever, they could be able to profile themselves in their own language. The Nalantis engine would semantically understand that, convert that into meaningful components, which are language independent, and match that against a vast network of Chinese business and investor opportunities, and sort of match it across language. So we think that this might really help building these robust businesses, these robust partnerships, cross-border, and in particular, of course, across language. So this is all preliminary work that we've been doing together with GLASE over the last couple of months. We're looking into finding common ground, and hopefully we can help platforms like GLASE and many others in building these cross-border businesses, and really leverage on the power of AI for language. So I'd say in a nutshell, this is what the story is of Nalantis, what our background is, what makes us a little different than a few other AI companies or bigger technology, big technology companies that invest into language models. And hopefully the use case that we've built together with GLASE could inspire you in reaching out and organizing a follow-up. So thank you everybody for listening, looking at the video and listening at the slides, and hopefully we can reconnect in the Q&A or offline if that should be necessary.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much. A fascinating presentation. I think we all enjoyed seeing that slide where you present the journey of Nalantis over years, and of course the kind of kickoff to a greater degree with the internet coming online, and the way that you have been able to bring together linguistics, semantics, and machine learning all together to deliver the types of outcomes that you talked about. I mean, being able to kind of look into the future and see what are the qualities or aptitudes, or what do students of today need to know in order to better fit into the opportunities for entrepreneurship and work, so as to shape the curricula of studies today, is just absolutely fascinating. And what you just mentioned right now, in terms of taking demands for products and services in one part of the world, in one language, and being able to translate them into supply from other parts of the world that may speak other languages and are completely in different time zones and everything else that complicates business today, I think is fascinating. So I very much look forward here to the questions at the end. One of the ones that I want to ask is, we'll see, I will want to give preference to the questions of our participants, of course, and I encourage you again to type in your question for Stephen into the LinkedIn page of GLASE. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, Stephen, is where do you see Nalantis 10 years from now? Where do you see the world of AI 10 years from now? So we'll get back into that in the Q&A period at the end, because right now I want to go to you, Elena. As you know, friends, Elena is our other co-host in this program. And I wanted to go to you, Elena, for you to please introduce our second speaker that also has a fascinating presentation with respect to the use of AI.
Okay, so our next speaker is Wen Tim. Tim is an international entrepreneurship service expert and is the responsible person for several departments in Norway. He has an IT education background in Finland, also 15 years of working experience in North America and Europe. So recently, he is working on a project relating to in-car speech recognition systems. I'm sure he has some practical examples to share as well. So Tim, and you ready? It's your time.
Oh, thank you, Helena. Thank you, Tai, and yeah, President. Yeah, really glad to have an opportunity here. Should I share my screen, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Give me a second. Let me see. Okay, so basically, right now I'm working for a state-owned company, basically in China, and called Innovate, which is the startup street, in China, and then we help, the companies, growing up, from early stage. By the way, Zhongguancun, which is I think probably most, famous science, science park in China, we rating up roughly 30% of Chinese unicorns, compared with whole country numbers. Of course, even including let's see, for instance, top 10, global top 10 unicorns, 3 of them from Zhongguancun area, right? So that's our capacity. That's what we've been doing. Myself is actually pretty narrowed down to how to help the early stage companies. Of course, nowadays, mostly related to artificial intelligence. That's one of the key industry we focus on. Helena has mentioned that yes, we do. We help one of the example company that we can probably share today a little bit. It is related to artificial intelligence, especially in the field of language, which is the technology from Japan, and that's actually is coming from one of 2 most famous vehicle brand. I shouldn't say name because we signed the NDA, but that's actually how the brand come from. And then the technology is it's actually for helping voice recognitions and based on different directions. So make it simple as easy understanding is that if you talk to that machine, by the way, it is served usually for the robot. So if you talk to this robot, it will the robot will recognize the voice from different direction, even from same time, and then they can also recognize what they've been saying about. Of course, this technology is not really big in new stuff, in the market, and but no one actually having a really fine solution so far. So we're helping this this small project settle down in China. That could be also come to question second would be actually why come to China. The a little bit background. In Japan, even some of the European countries, right? We they pretty actually protecting the privacies and also all those regulations. Of course, in China we do as well, but there's always the government pretty give sort of like like a space that you could try new stuff, and then in China it's kind of like a pilot like pilot the zone, or like even free trade zone. That's some place you always can try. Similar like a GLASE. GLASE is actually in the field of sharing economic. You guys know that in China even a couple of years ago started to sharing back business models. Sometimes I see even from other countries like laughing these models, because you will see some jungle picture that's have like a mountain of the sharing bikes somewhere in the city, in the corner of city somewhere, which looks like really ugly and also unorganized. But actually through the period now, and step by step, some of the company being kicked off from market, and also government recognize how to manage, those, new models and new opportunities, and then figuring out also the regulation, how could be actually, serve, for those, new stuff. And then actually become more and more, uh, you know, uh, formulated. It's similar as in like, artificial intelligence, the technology. That's why people, you could sometimes even choose, like, market in China that's, compared with Japan. If this technology is sort of like a gray area, new stuff, the government were actually asking so many questions, privacy, and then also human rights, etc. But actually, uh, in China is somehow that you could try. But once you figure out, MVP, minimum viable products, and then they're actually, growing up of the market, and then of course you can go back to your original country. That's actually the concept, we talked about last time with, Thai, regarding about, how we could be make, the artificial intelligence, business model settle down, from global point of view. That's actually we see, at least, from China, because we went through those periods, and then also even so, artificial intelligence, especially in the field of like, voice recognition, is pretty well developed in China, and many people are using like, like small like, chatbots, or like, the box that, you can actually having a dialogue, either from Xiaomi, from Baidu. My home have three of them in different rooms. I'm just trying, different, different result. Looks pretty cool, and then actually, and also, more and more practical, right? I know Xiaomi, you know, Xiaomi, chat box is actually also getting to the vehicle industry. So future on, if you drive your own vehicle, that, you can use in the voice recognition to control not actually the level 2, but actually, you can control definitely some entertainment, right, stuff, in your vehicles. So that's actually the thought we see about, and the plus, making sure the regulations and make the trial happens. That's the foundation of the business. So back to actually my example, why Japan, this company, choose, China, is because this technology started like the 2008, and then nothing to do, just stay in the database of like, that, 500 Fortune, 500 Fortune, company R&D centers, because people are afraid of like make this, commercial. But one time, they come to China, they thought about why we can just, try this one in China market. Now, so far it's pretty good. We've figured out, two business models, so far, in the market, because the machine can, recognize the voice from different direction. So we make this one as a, like, the like, the meeting mini, like, make the meeting minutes. So people, once we have the meeting, and nobody really make the minutes, or someone could make, but usually people doesn't like. So but the machine can do it, right? But the problem, from exiting, uh, machine, that's because they cannot recognizing the voice, different voices, and plus the direction. But actually, this, technology so far could do it. Of course, the successful ratio is not really that high, but of course, it's really depending on the the data to train the language. And also the other ones that we are starting with, the like toys, like a small bear. The bear can actually doing the really dialogue, conversation, interactive with families, and also parents and the kids could actually play around with this, toy, because it can recognize, the voice from, from mom, from baby, and also doing some, interactive. And also the toy, usually, that they don't really care about, successful ratio, and how much percentage of the 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 words has been actually correctly, catched, right? So it's a really good, like, trial to practice, the data and the train the language. So, and of course, after, the development of the product, it could be actually duplicated to many other countries. Europe and Japan, etc. Some of the countries that's really, uh, first trade of the regulation. So we should go that market later. Then, but when the time they go, it will be giving a really fine solution. So usually the government, from Europe, from Japan, is not just the first trade. They are actually tough just because they probably more taking care of the citizens. They want actually everything fully protect and give all the 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 regulations and the requirements to the startups company. But usually, as you know, the startups company really cannot force that expenses, especially in the beginning, and nobody even knows how it's going to be after a year. So that's pretty hard period. But they actually, when the time they practice all the fund solution from China, and then the time they go there, it will be actually give a really good all the answers to the government what actually could be the solution, etc. So that's actually the major points I would like to share today. Of course, I really love to actually leave the more time to the Q&A sections. I know there's not so many audience here, but actually I love to give the time to the people who are willing to share some your thought and also give some comments based on my speech, and we can really do any interactive sections afterwards. Yeah, so that's actually so far my presentation.
Tim, thank you so much. A very good presentation. And I like the fact that you brought in the different perspectives from different countries, because it gives us a very good comparison of where they all are vis-a-vis these topics that are so very interesting and relevant towards the future. So I don't want to take any more time here away from questions. T, let me pass it on to you and Elena to lead us in the question and answer period, please.
Yep, sure, sir. So we're getting some questions either from the bottom of the YouTube Live or LinkedIn, and also welcome any audience from this Zoom to actually share your screen and ask some questions. So we got probably not much question, but still, anyone would like to give a question to either of the speakers? Please go ahead. Or if you want to ask question to each other, that's also fine.
Well, I'll ask a first question while we start warming up here. And I wanted to go back, Stephen, to what I was already discussing with you at the closing of your statement. Where do you see AI? What do you see AI enabling us to do as a global society 10 years from now? How do you envision that world with AI coming on so strong as it is? And then, Tim, if you would like to come in and answer the same question, I'd be very interested in your sights into the future of where you see all of this going, because it's absolutely fascinating. So back to you, Stephen.
Stephen, you're still in. Stephen? Yes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for your compelling question, President Figueres. I think as a company dealing with AI for language and obviously looking at what's next, it sort of pushes us always on certainly on a daily basis, and try to figure out what's the road ahead like, what's it going to be. And we've built a like a roadmap. We call it AI building blocks, and the subtitle is actually Road to AGI, meaning artificial general intelligence. And so how do you build really intelligent and sophisticated machine. And to us, the solution is in combining all of these ecosystems, right? So one of the things that lie ahead for Nalantis is I'm not sure if I fully mentioned it during my presentation, but the semantic models that we are building, we tend not to close them up too carefully, but we tend to do the reverse, and that is opening up these models so we don't offer a black box to the market. And this is very, I think, very needed, because AI needs transparency, needs accountability. I think we need to build more algorithms that can explain to the audience, to the vendors, to the developers, why a specific algorithm made a specific decision, right? So that helps us in compliance as well. And so for us, by applying this no black box idea, which we want to build into the fabric of the company. So no black box is definitely for us the way to go. That's one, short term. Then we see lots of opportunities in a sort of in a range of applications. One that speaks to mind is anything that is data visualization. So building models, semantic models that you are able to visualize from a vendor to a customer, because we are delivering let's call it the software component. So being able to visualize these models and build visualization more into enterprise or government applications, to us that is key in the short term. Adding the ability to understand language, you can actually start applying that in the mid-long term to image recognition, right? Because machines, tend to learn from lots of images, but even these images have classification and text labels. If you apply natural language understanding against these text labels, then image recognizers will start gradually improving. Same thing for speech recognition. I heard Tim talking about speech recognition. I heard about what are the exact words, and so applying semantic filters against speech recognition will also gradually improve that. And if you're able to do that for image and for speech, then sooner or later you'll be able to do that for robotics, right? And for autonomous vehicles, because these are all building blocks that somehow will communicate and correlate with each other. And so to us, it's very important to keep our eye on that roadmap, to keep our eye on those building blocks, and build the ecosystem from maybe from the ground up, and do our job in AI for language, and then hopefully leverage towards other applications and industries.
Fascinating. Thank you, Stephen. Tim, if I may turn to you, you mentioned in the beginning of your conversation the region there called Zhongguancun, which of course is known as a Silicon Valley of China. And I recall that with Godfrey Tang 2 years ago, when in China we visited that region. So impressive to see what's happening there. And particularly, we visited an incubator being run by the local government, which was absolutely fascinating to see the support that entrepreneurs were getting in their different developments. In the world of today, where we need to get the economy back up on its feet and create jobs and opportunities, that type of incubator, I think, has so much potential in so many countries. But I would want to come back to you, Tim. Where do you see AI taking us 10 years from now? What do you think you'll be working on in AI 10 years from now?
Well, yeah, thank you, Stephen. Give me actually really good thought, and actually also fresh in my mind. From I can only probably talk about probably China, right? So even so, I'm a Canadian passport holder, but rest of 7 years, I was just spending mostly in China, especially in Beijing. So the happening, if I'm doing some focus, of course, artificial intelligence will changing our world, and then also our life a lot. For example, automatic driving. Nobody knows how going to be level 1, changing the changing the whole world that much, but because that's not really based on the technology, because the technology so far is actually almost ready, almost ready. Just based on the regulations and also government support, etc. But of course, the low speed vehicle will be actually definitely applied at least in rest of even maybe 2 3 years, not even going to be 10 years, which is people call LSAD, low speed automatic devices, I think so. Yeah. So this one is going to be actually, that means you see the logistic, post office officer everywhere, but actually from machine, right? And also you will see the selling, the sell box, from everywhere. They can drive to in the front of you, by even voice recognition, and it is already happening in somewhere, pretty practical. It's like a closed circle of like a science park somewhere. And of course, language recognitions, dialogue, machines will be actually, and plus, translation machines will definitely work it out. And by that means, near future, few years, people like us, today the conversation, I can probably, as confident as possible speaking Chinese, and you will pick it up, from your side English, meanwhile, in the same time, perfectly, right? So that's no doubt. And then it is also happening, of course, the successful rate is not really that, good. Sometimes really make, really good, joke, because the translation sometimes is really, really bad. So that's going to be changed. But of course, I know that, some of these things wouldn't be changed. For instance, now I'm coming with my family because, as, like in the middle age person, I have to taking care of my family. That's not going to be changed, no matter where. And yeah, sorry about that. It's I say you probably look my picture and then the working because I have to send them to the train station and duty on shoulder. Sorry about that. That's actually going to be happens even after 10 years. I think so. Yeah, I'm not sure if you answer your question.
Thank you so much. And Tim, it's lovely to see you walking at this time of the evening. And it's also lovely, of course, to see you taking care of the family. Those things are most important. And, thank you for sharing that with all of us. Back to you, T.
Thank you. Thank you for both of the answers. Now, do we have anyone else wants to pop up a question? I think we still got time for one more question before we get into introducing of the next next time program. Anyone want to pop up with the question? Helena or Godfrey? Anyone?
Well, I think we've asked our questions.
Yeah.
And I mean, it has been a wonderful conversation, both by Stephen and Tim. This subject of artificial intelligence is something that is already there, very much in our lives. And when discussing the opportunities to showcase several subjects on our Sharing Global Views series of events, Elena, T, Godfrey, and myself thought that we should concentrate this month of September on the way that technology, AI, cloud computing can help global businesses to communicate, to share, and to make decisions that create opportunities of well-being around the planet, and to come out of this crisis in an even stronger way with respect to our development opportunities than we came into it. So I would like to turn to Elena, if I may, for Elena to introduce our speaker that will continue this conversation of technology helping global businesses from a different perspective, when we next meet on the 23rd of September at the same time. Elena, could you please introduce Dr. Li Shunfeng?
Sure. So as part of the theme of this month, how technologies help us improving our global business communities are and the communications and decisions. So our next session is on September 23rd. Dr. Li, who is the GM of IBM Global Strategy Team, and he will introduce how an enterprise could use big data AI make much better and accurate decisions. He will also outline some fascinating stories of these applications, and this will help some of the most well-respected company, such as IBM, leveraging this and process improve business decision-making process. Yeah, so this basically our next topic. Yeah.
Thank you, Elena. And friends, T. Godfrey, Elena, and myself already had a preliminary conversation with Dr. Li, which we found absolutely fascinating. So we do certainly want to ask you to write in your calendars we will be conversing with Dr. Li on the 23rd of September at the same time. That's a great coffee morning time in the Americas. It's a great coffee after lunchtime, Stephen, in Europe. And it is a great coffee or tea time after dinner in Asia and specifically in China. So thank you all for being with us in this most recent edition of Sharing Global Views, and we look forward to seeing you on the next time. T. Elena?
Yep. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, everyone, and team.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank you very
all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take
Thank
care.
you, Stephen.
Next time.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
来来来，后面抬，那么抬不行，后面沉，后面沉。